In the news this week, show me the money, please. An exclusive news poll on whether the McGowan government should consider cost of living cash relief.
Done and dusted, the results of the North West Central by-election after Labor pulled out. Australia prepares to mourn Her Majesty's passing with a public holiday. And later, Dr. Andrew Miller's comment.
This is The Evening News with Ivan Loon and Maliva Thorne.
Good evening. The cost of living squeeze continue for Western Australians, despite the recent $400 electricity credit. An exclusive news poll from WAMN News shows a significant number of participants want Premier and Treasurer Mark McGowan to consider a one-off cost of living cash relief payment, similar to South Australia's recent policy. Luke Derrick begins our coverage.
There is no relief in sight for the majority of Western Australians who are struggling and want to see more cost of living assistance from the McGowan government. South Australia has recently started to give out cost of living relief payments for low-income homeowners. Should Western Australia follow suit? An exclusive WAMN news poll showed 75% of people think the payment should be $800. 4% said it should be $500, and 1% said that it should be $250. Interestingly, 20% of participants said that we should not receive any payment. WA Government Minister Rhys Whitby believes the McGowan government has responded adequately to the crisis.
We understand the plight of people who are doing it tough. We think our actions and our management of the economy and the finances means that we can help.
Liberal leader David Honey isn't surprised about the results and says that people need genuine assistance.
My concern with those relief packages was that they weren't targeted. So it was crazy. So I think I've got about 6 billionaires that are in my electorate. They got the same rebate as people who are homeless, or in fact the people who are homeless didn't get a rebate because the rebates went on household power charges.
On the other hand, the final results from the poll that began 2 weeks ago regarding what the priorities of the Albanese government should be is 86% for the cost of living, 10% for the Scott Morrison inquiry, and 4% for the Indigenous voice to Parliament. The Albanese government is expected to deliver cost of living solutions in its mini-budget handed down by Treasurer Jim Chalmers next month. Luke Derrick, WAMN News.
The North West Central by-election has concluded this weekend with the backdrop of Labor not participating in the race. It put the Nationals, Liberals, Greens and many minor parties against each other, heating up competition for a small number of votes in this large yet diverse electorate. Veteran political journalist Peter Kennedy has a summary.
The North West Central by-election is a good result for the National Party. It retained the seat and it increased its two-party preferred situation and also increased the proportion of the primary vote so that the National Party would be pleased with that. The Liberal Party also increased its primary vote, threefold in fact, but from a disastrous 8% at the state election last year. This seat used to be a Liberal Party stronghold. At one stage it was held by the Deputy Leader of the Liberal Party, Ian Lawrence. So the Liberal vote has really fallen away in that area. It's up to the party to rebuild, and sections of the party won't be happy with that, and they'll be looking at the leader David Honey to actually lift his game. As far as the Labor Party is concerned, they ducked the by-election, so we don't know just what the standing of the Labor Party is in the electorate, whether the Labor Party has lost ground or whether it's making up ground. Remember, the Labor Party topped the primary vote in this seat at the last state election and ducked the by-election. A quite extraordinary move. One interesting point here, the poor voter turnout in North West Central. Less than half the registered voters had had their votes counted by close of counting on Saturday night. So that is a very, very low turnout. Sure, the by-election wasn't going to change the government. The Labor Party wasn't in the field, but it does show a certain degree of apathy in that electorate. But as far as the coalition parties are concerned, the status quo remains, but question marks will be asked about the tactics of the Liberal Party and the fact that the party didn't make up even more ground than it did on Saturday. And so a question mark on David Honey's leadership. But by-elections out of the way, National Party's retained it, and the status quo remains. Peter Kennedy, WAMN News.
Australians will have the opportunity to mourn the death of Queen Elizabeth II with a public holiday. The national holiday of mourning will occur on Thursday as a one-off holiday, while a national memorial service will be held in Canberra, broadcast live, commemorating Her Majesty's life. Meanwhile, WA will observe public holiday shopping hours on the day between 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. The state government says the day will honour Queen Elizabeth's contribution to public life.
We believe that to have our normal public holiday trading arrangements strikes the right balance to provide a respectful opportunity for people to acknowledge the life and service of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, and also to provide people with an opportunity to go about their lives as they see as necessary. So we invite all business operators, obviously, to make decisions for themselves in the best interests of their business and their customers.
And WAMN News contributor Steve Anderson joins us from London as the mourners' queue reaches full capacity.
I've never seen it so busy the whole time I've been here in London. It's so packed. When I was actually coming here from the tube station, I was just like moving one step at a time, you know, because it's so packed. Everyone wants to be here in London for this weekend. Yeah, it is amazing. I mean, people obviously care about the royal family. And it's tourists as well, you know. It's not just London locals. It's many tourists who are coming here and paying their respects. Okay, so the main thing that happened, the main change that was observable was that at every tube station and at every bus stop, instead of having ads, this whole week, they've just been displaying the commemoration with the picture and the date of her birth and death. That's the biggest change that I've been able to see. Other than that, it's of course it's busier, but otherwise, you know, it's more or less business as usual. It's just a busier, more crowded London.
At least 14 people have died from COVID this week, according to the WA Health Department's weekly update, with the patients dying aged between 70 and 90 years old. Overall, there were 6,141 cases this week. 3,615 cases are active, 152 are in hospital, and 2 people are in the intensive care unit. There were 15,712 PCR tests and 4,328 RAT tests. WA has recorded over 1.1 million cases since the COVID-19 pandemic began. Anyone experiencing symptoms should get tested immediately and isolate until they receive a negative result.
The Perth Royal Show will be back later this month, with Western Australians expected to pack showgrounds in less than a week. The much-loved festival will be held between the 24th of September to the 1st of October from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. The Royal Agriculture Society's councillor and farmer, Beth McDonald, looks forward to the event.
Well, we're certainly hoping that we'll have numbers as good as they were last year. A lot of that does depend on the weather. And we're praying for 8 days like today's been. It would be wonderful. Because I think there certainly appears to be a lot of people very interested in coming.
Eastern Australian communities need to prepare for above-average rainfall this spring and early summer as La Nina occurs in the Pacific Ocean. The Bureau of Meteorology says its 3-month outlook showed above-average rainfall for most of Eastern Australia and eastern Tasmania, with a change in atmosphere and ocean temperature. However, with catchments already wet, the risk of floods remains, and the Bureau urges Western Australians to stay up to date with weather forecasts and warnings.
A new flower species has been created in Western Australia to celebrate the 150th anniversary of Kings Park. The new pink grevillea hybrid will hit nurseries next year. It's not the first colourful spin on the native plant, with a blue kangaroo paw released in early 2022. The everlasting Kings Park Festival was also launched on Friday, which will run for 2 weeks and display more than 3,000 types of WA flora. The 59-year-old festival, which is among the longest running in the country, will also feature close to 180 events, such as walks, workshops and fun activities for the whole family.
For a botanic gardener, I think we're quite unique. And the other thing is we're an environmental based agency, so We want to grow plants that use less water, use less fertiliser and provide habitat for urban flora. And these plants do that. Not only do they look fantastic, but they have that added benefit to help climate mitigation. Yeah.
Well, back in high school, Ivan, I used to go running at Kings Park often, and it would be at dawn, so I'd see the most beautiful sunset over the river and over the city. And it was something quite special.
I agree with that. And, you know, I have to say that after coming to Perth for almost 15 years, Kings Park is a wonderful sanctuary we should all appreciate. We'll recap this week's top stories again in just a moment.
But right now, here's Nelson Liu with Western Perspective.
Thanks, guys. Hello and welcome to Western Perspective. I'm Nelson Liu. Thanks for joining us. Tonight, it's a situation described as a complete overreach by WA's ethnic communities representatives. 3 Indian tourists detained for 5 days by the Australian Border Force. The men include their wives on visas, but the women didn't travel, resulting in cancelled visas and 110 hours of detention. But the men were released, the situation described as a jurisdictional error. I spoke to Ethnic Communities Council President Suresh Rajan, who says the tourists have been left traumatised and stereotyped.
To a person who actually lives in this country and has been here for about 12 or 14 years, I think he's lived here. Biju has 3 children, and the youngest of the children was having her Holy Communion at the end of last year. The father then decided that what he'd do is he'd bring out some members of the family. Hadn't seen the members of the family for about 7 or 8 years, and he thought it'd be a good opportunity to bring them all together for a celebration of her Holy Communion. 3 members of his family lived overseas, 2 of them in the Middle East and 1 in India. They decided with their wives to come out here. Somewhere along the line, the wives decided that they weren't coming for various reasons. One person didn't get a visa, so they decided that all 3 of the wives would stay home, but the 3 men would come out here. When they arrived here, the Border Force people took them aside. They then placed these 3 men in 3 separate rooms in the detention area and interviewed each of them separately. And the interviews went for about 8 hours. So for 8 hours, they were grilling them around issues of, why they were here, why their wives were not here. And they came to the conclusion, basically, that the men had lied on their visa applications by indicating that their wives were coming. To the Border Force people then came down to the open area of the waiting area of the airport and started to grill my friend who was just downstairs there. The 3 men had breached the visa applications by lying, and they then cancelled all 3 visas and put them into the detention area and indicated that they were going to be deported on the Wednesday of that week. So this happened on the Sunday. On the Wednesday, they were going to be deported. ABF, the Border Force people, then rang my friend and indicated that they had made a jurisdictional error, and they were now going to release all 3 people back to his care, and he could come and take them home. So the exercise was a total waste of taxpayer money, absolutely shattered. They will never ever come here again. They will never ever recommend to anyone that they come here. The 3 men themselves are absolutely petrified, so they will remain scared for a long time yet.
How do the families feel about what's happened?
Say that do not comment on individual cases because it's private, and we understand that, but they've also said that they queried whether or not they said there was no racism involved in what they did. I would question that, because I really don't think that they would have applied these same rules to people who were not of this colour and this ethnicity.
Has Australian Border Force come out and made any comments about it?
I think the Border Force people should have overreached to the extent they did. There was nothing there that they could have gone and asked for that had not already been provided, and therefore you cannot look at this as being reasonable action under any circumstances.
So you don't believe that this is just Australian Border Force doing their job, that there was a level of stereotyping involved?
It'll take a bit of time for them to come out of the shell. They will get to a point where they will hold that party that they were going to have on behalf of the of the child with the Holy Communion that was held last year.
So what's the situation now for the three men and their families?
Take a couple more weeks before they get to the stage where they will get comfortable enough to know that hopefully this is a one-off and it's not going to happen again.
And now, here's AMA WA spokesman Dr Andrew Miller with his weekly COVID-19 update and commentary.
Hi, thanks for your time. It's important to understand that even though the governments are keen for us to move on from COVID, August was still the month with the most number of deaths in Australia since the start of the pandemic, and we've now seen a death toll of over 14,400 people, unfortunately. A lot of those, of course, in aged care, and it's very tough times for a lot of the elderly in our community who are seeing that the rest of us are moving on, and therefore leaving them pretty vulnerable to severe outcomes in a relative sense. Even though the vaccines have been very good, there's still some waning of those now, and of course the variants have moved on. We're likely to see another wave going into the end of the year, and we're now looking at variants around the world to see where that might come from. And given that we are now very well connected to the rest of the world with international travel, lack of masks, obviously no quarantine and so on, it's likely that we will see that arise in Australia fairly quickly once it gets established overseas. So we need to remain on guard and be prepared to mask when we're in indoor locations in public, which is something that I continue to do just out of habit and don't find it a particularly difficult thing to do. And it protects not just me, but my elderly mother who lives with me, and also if I were to have some sort of infection, it'll protect the people in the community around me when I wear it. So we also can look to the report of the Australian Bureau of Statistics recently, who look at the rates of mortality in the country and what they're being caused by, and we're seeing a contribution of COVID to an uptick of about 10 to 15% in things like heart attack, stroke, dementia, all of which are known complications of COVID disease, or certainly exacerbated and worsened by having had COVID infections. So those trends will continue, and we'll keep an eye on them and hope for vaccine for our under 5 population. Still waiting on that. Very frustrating that we have not yet got the supply to roll it out and protect those kids, so that the first time they get infected, hopefully it will be with some vaccine on board. And then we need to get updated vaccine. The bivalent vaccine has been approved, which is the one that acts against 2 of the different variants of COVID. So although the media have moved on, the government have moved on to a large degree, and even picking up little comments here and there from the World Health Organization that we're within sight of the finish line, they're missing out the second half of the sentence from the WHO, which is that you can't stop running until you finish the race. And speaking of which, I hear that Nelson's going to be leaving WAMN News. Always have enjoyed every chance that I have to have been interviewed by Nelson. I think he's made a great contribution, and I wish him all the best with his future career, and I wish all of you out there a very safe week. Chat to you soon.
Thank you, Doctor. And here's Leo Puglisi with what's coming up on 6 News tonight.
Thank you. Tonight on 6 News, Queen Elizabeth II's funeral fast approaches as mourners continue to pay tribute to the late monarch. We speak to a young monarchist, and we claims that having kings and queens is too old-fashioned and that Australia's youth is moving away from the monarchy. Plus, over in WA, the National set to retain the seat of North West Central and remain the state's official opposition as the Western Australia Party fails to make much of an impact despite running 2 candidates. And the stage is set. Fallout continues after the Swans' nail-biting victory over Collingwood in the AFL, now set to take on Geelong in the grand final. You can see full details on those stories and plenty more by heading to our YouTube channel. Just search 6 News Australia to find us, or head to our website 6newsau.com. Congrats Nelson as well on a great innings there at WAMN. For now though guys, it is back to you.
Before we go tonight, I have some personal news to share myself. For the past 7 years, WAMN News has been my home here in the media industry, where I've brought you the latest in news and current affairs, both home and abroad. But in keeping in with WAMN News' policy of bringing you breaking stories, I bring you an exclusive. I'm leaving for different pastures. I've been thrilled to bring you the local stories on our Sunday evening news bulletin, Western Perspective, and on our website. I may be telling you the stories, but they're your stories, and WAMN News is your platform. Now's the time to pass the baton on to other young journalists to give them their shot at doing what WAMN News does best. This is not the end. We will meet again. I'm sure you'll hear my voice on the airwaves, read my words and thoughts in reports and opinions. You may even see me on your screens once more, maybe even on WAMN News. But please continue to support WAMN News by joining the extra subscription service to bring the stories that are important to you and support independent local journalism. Ivan, I appreciate the time that we've worked together in the past 7 years. We've covered many stories together, many of which have made the station what it is. You've made me a better reporter, and I know I'll miss getting out on the road as part of the team and covering another budget and yet another state election. Also, Melly, take the reins and keep doing good work. I know you'll do well.
You've hit it right on the head there, buddy. It's important to subscribe so we can train the younger reporters like yourselves. You know, after more than 2,800 articles, 3 federal elections, 2 state elections, 6 state budgets, several bushfires, and the pandemic, mate, you've done it all.
Thanks so much for your hard work, Nelson, over the years. And thank you in particular for mentoring me as I learn more and more about news.
Now, I know the next 2 minutes won't do you any justice because there's just so much appearance and there's so many of them, we just can't squeeze it all in. But we've mined the archives, and here's a tribute to you since your first on-camera appearance back in 2015.
Ivan, the Liberal Party's Andrew Hastie is the current frontrunner in Canning's by-election, focusing on local issues such as crime, drugs, jobs and infrastructure, with Deputy Prime Minister Julie Bishop's full support.
The RSL's president warns Anzac Day could be priced out of the state if services continue to expand rapidly.
Graham Edwards has warned Anzac Day ceremonies may need to be cut back following expanding costs for bigger crowds and ceremonies in WA each year.
Leader Mark McGowan reaches the pinnacle of his political career by becoming the Premier after winning the state election. WAMN News is out in full force on election night.
I love this place. It's done more for me than I can ever repay.
After 8 years and 2 terms in government, Colin Barnett has initiated projects and policies that have seen the state grow and become his legacy as WA Premier.
The one I made to myself was that I would give it my best shot.
I have always believed in miracles.
Scott Morrison says it's right back to work following the win, but it's also success for other Liberal members around the nation. Hello, Nelson Liu with today's news headlines. WA Greens have called on Parliament to declare a climate emergency with a motion to be debated next month. Currently, Wuhan remains in lockdown to prevent the spread of the virus. We can confirm that at least 6 Chinese Western Australians, including children, are stuck in Hubei province, with 3 in the provincial capital, Wuhan.
As we will continue to get more confirmed cases, it will happen every day. But we as a state will get through this.
Made of fabric, they look like a regular surgical mask. All it needs is an adequate filter in between. Parents who advocate for making yourself masks say they do it to keep their kids safe. But the question is, do these masks actually work? Meanwhile, doctors are stressing personal hygiene, urging people to wash their hands properly. WA President Dr. Andrew Miller has a say, uncut, unfiltered.
And that I just want us all to take a minute, step back, put it all in context.
To have the support and faith of so many Western Australians in one of the most important state elections is a great honour.
It's a crushing win like no other in WA state politics.
Kirk have conceded defeat in the state election, confirming predictions that he could not beat Mark McGowan.
The damage to homes and lives is rising in Perth's northeast as properties are ravaged in an ongoing bushfire in Warraloo.
Has managed to reach this home and has left a trail of destruction. A beautiful home turned into a pile of rubble. This is one of the properties burnt out in the blaze. While firefighters have prevented more extensive damage to the homes, it's uncertain that there could be more.
It has a new Prime Minister, with Anthony Albanese leading Labor to form a majority government for the first time in more than a decade.
The battle for the electorate of Curtin has been on a knife's edge, but now it's about to be decided. Independent candidate Kate Chaney has secured the previously safe Liberal Party seat, beating the incumbent holder Celia Hammond. Both Kate Chaney and Celia Hammond have been neck and neck during this election campaign, according to pre-election polls.
Nelson, what can I say? 7 years with Ivan. You're moving on. You probably deserve a medal. Good luck.
Well, Nelson, you've been an integral part of WAMN News for a very long time, but we're very excited and pleased to welcome you to the WAMN Alumni Club. We wouldn't be the same without you. We're keen to have you. Let's catch up soon.
Nelson, congrats on a great innings there at WAMN. Obviously, many networks and news outlets seem to be abandoning WA with current affairs journalism, but the work you've been doing there at WAMN News and on Western Perspective, of course, has been fantastic. Good luck with wherever you go next.
Nelson Liu has been a familiar face on WAMN News for the past 7 years. He's built up his credibility, experience, and is known for his authoritative reports. So, Nelson, all the very best.
What a remarkable 7 years it has been. It's been an honour to work with you, buddy.
And on behalf of the viewers, we thank you for your hard work over the years. The final sign-off is yours.
I'm Nelson Liu, and for the final time, Ivan and Melly, it's back to you.
Thank you very much, Nelson. And that's our weekly news and current affairs. We have the latest news on our website, wamnnews.com.au.
Don't forget to subscribe to the WAMN Extra News Club so we can continue our work in the community and train younger reporters such as Nelson. Full details on wamnnews.com.au/news/extra. From Melly and myself, we wish you good health, good night. See you next Sunday.
Thanks for watching.